Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hi, welcome back everybody to Films and Stuff. I'm Ethan and joined by Pete.
How are you this week?
Everything is great. We are also joined today by our friends from the Underrated podcast. We've got Derick, Ariel, and Alan.
Hey.
Hi, how's it going?
Hey, everybody, how's it going?
Today we're talking about Shazam, Fury of the Gods. So I think we're really going to need all the help we can get to break this down.
That's right. And I'm telling you right now, this, we talked about this offline. This movie has the potential to break apart Films and Stuff. We have very mixed feelings about this movie.
Yeah, we already talked about it a little bit.
Could I ask beforehand, like, what your guys' like overall opinion over like comic books, movies in general?
I'm a fan in general.
Okay.
I hesitate to say I prefer one company over the other. I think in terms of success and in terms of quality, I would lean towards Marvel over DC. Although that has probably wavered a lot in the last, let's say, phase and a half. I would also suggest that if you're looking at individual characters as comic book characters, DC probably has a stronger lineup than Marvel, but the movies haven't necessarily reflected that.
And I'd say between Pete and myself, Pete is a much stronger fan of comic books. He's got a lot more lore, that he's read a lot more comic books than I have. But in terms of just kind of following DC and Marvel, we're probably about even. We see almost everything. We love doing a deep dive into both, but definitely I rely on Pete more. And I think we'll probably rely on Alan a lot today as well for kind of the historical significance of some of these characters when we dive into the DC extended universe now.
Yeah. Alan is very much the DC side of things, more so in history and stuff like, and then I'm a little bit more of the Marvel MCU on our end. So yeah, I just want to get a general gist of like where you're coming from, kind of thing.
No problem. So normally how we start this off is, especially because we started pre-pandemic and, we're all fans of movies. We're all fans of the experience of going to the cinema. So one of the first things we do is check in with each other, all of us. What was the actual movie experience like? Was the cinema full? Were there lots of excited fans? Was it empty? How was it for you guys?
Yeah, me and Alan watched it together. Alan, I'd say we had a pretty good group. Like it was a pretty solid theater. We watched it in Dolby, which in the back row, which made it for a really cool, somewhat like immersive,
almost
experience.
4D experience.
Yeah, 4D experience
Yeah.
because we were in the back row. We had like an extra line of speakers right behind us.
Sure.
And the movie lend itself a lot to really good like action and like audio kind of like moments and stuff like that where when the fighting was happening, we were feeling it. It was pretty cool. So me and Alan, I think, like had a pretty good theater experience on that end.
And it wasn't like too packed. It was kind of, though, a funny story. But even then at the theater that we go to, Friday nights are packed. So I was expecting it to be like a full house, but it was kind of a little more, it was kind of quieter. But it's also because after we walked out of the theater, we found out that there was a shooting at the cinema. So we were like, oh shit.
At the location where the cinema is not the cinema itself.
Yeah, so like there's a section
rowdy
blocked
people.
A lot of bars. It was St. Patrick's Day. So I figured, I was like, it's probably some domestic thing happened. And then my girlfriend that was with us, she got like her friend sent her an article saying, hey, there was a shooting where you guys were at. And the funniest part is all of us were like, let's just take a really easy St. Patrick's Day. We don't want to get drunk. We want to be safe and sound. Let's go watch a movie instead. And the biggest irony is
that
like,
backfired.
That backfired.
No, yeah. For me, when I got there a little bit earlier than them, and like I went on the side where apparently like somebody ran away, and I think that they were like kind of like tracing where like the blood splatter like of this guy running away, and I was just like, oh, okay, I'll go around, because they were like literally walking right next to me, and I was like, what are they looking at? What are they looking at? And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go around.
Well, there was no CSI crime scene happening at my showing. Yeah, mine was a bit more, it wasn't like a packed theater, but it wasn't an empty one either. It was kind of right there in the middle. And surprisingly, even though I also saw it as a kind of later Friday night showing, there was like a good amount of kids in the theater, which I think, speaks to some of the kind of the demographics of this movie, what it appeals to and stuff. I'll maybe get more into that later. But yeah, it was a fairly good audience. It wasn't, kind of right there in the middle, just between a packed house and an empty one. So yeah, just nothing spectacular to report on my theater, I guess.
We went on Friday. Derick, when did you go? Did you go on a Friday?
I went Friday night. Yeah, I was at a different theater than you guys, but yeah, I was around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my theater, I was number 3 of 5. As I walked into the cinema, there were 2 other people. I got in, and just as the trailer started, another couple walked in, and that was it for the rest of the viewing. There were just 5 in mine.
Yeah, I was the same as Pete, but I went on a Wednesday night. It opened in Dubai on a Wednesday night. So I saw an 11 p.m. and I was 1 of 5. And I was the only person in there, maybe until the opening trailers ended, and then 2 couples must have snuck in, just as it started. But I was 1 of 5, and I guess it's not unusual what we've all been saying, since the opening box office numbers have not been stellar, right?
Yeah, tracking for the movie was very low for this weekend.
Interesting, because usually superhero movies open super big, and then they have a steep drop off. So if it didn't open that big, that's really, we'll have to see how it goes to the weekend, but that's really interesting.
I think it might pick up a bit more because spring breaks are starting up here in the US, and then also Easter weekend, but they are going to have the added competition of a movie that's a lot more than this one, drive 2 kids, and not just kids, but also very much nostalgic 30-year-olds of Super Mario Brothers as well, which is coming out. DC kind of it has their slate releases kind of in weird spots, and it'll probably change once James Gunn's Vision starts with, I think Alan, it's going to be is Superman the official start of James Gunn's DC, but Flash is going to actually bring a lot of people in too. We'll have to see. I think Shazam is kind of is not the biggest character in the DC EU, definitely. He's not one of the big 3, which is kind of insinuated too in the movie itself at with the first post-credit scene, and him being kind of put on a different team than the big 4 or 5, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's
so let's not pussyfoot around it. I'm going to start with you, Alan, because you're the expert here. What did you think? Did you like it?
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Did you hate it?
Yeah.
I had a blast with it. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. And I know somebody mentioned earlier that it was kind of, the audience was a little bit more child-centric. And it does make sense, because the film has a lot of more familial themes. It's more about family. It's more about the character Captain Marvel, Shazam, Billy Batson, whatever you want to call it, he's a kid. So I feel like it's geared towards kids, and ultimately, but it's a lot of fun. Even back when I got back into comic books in the late 2000s, Shazam comics, they were all geared towards children. They were all they were in a different aisle of the comic book store. They were always for little kids and stuff, and you never really saw him much with the other characters, not until the New 52, which was kind of a reboot back in 2011. So yeah, but you know what, he's always been a more child-centric character, because it's essentially a kid transforming into adult, having these awesome powers. And I feel ultimately his character, the character itself, is always just more fun. I think when he came out back in the golden age of comics, with Fawcett Comics, he was, they're there's Superman, and everybody likes Superman, but at the same time they had a character that was directly geared towards children. So I feel like that they did a great job of blending like fantasy and lore, and also having that cool like, hey, we're kids but we're still kicking ass and we're doing a great job, and that they make mistakes, and I can see how some people might get upset with some of the decisions of the characters, but I'm like, remember, they're all kids. I mean, other than Mary Marvel, but even then she's still a young adult. You see her hungover and she's kind of like, yeah, I made my decision, I went out to get drunk and stuff. But yeah, I think ultimately it was a fun family comic book film, and I really had a good time with it. I will say there's some instances where I was a little like, huh? I felt the second act was a little typical comic book movie fare, but the final act really picked it up. And then, yeah, my only gripe with it really was the literal Deus Ex Machina of Wonder Woman showing up and going, oh, no, don't worry about it. Let me resurrect them and it's going to be okay. I kind of wish there was a little bit more explanation as to how she knew and what made her decide to show up, kind of thing.
She got one of the paper
birds, yeah.
Paper bird messages.
I like though she was Billy. Just like waiting into the side for someone to say something about a god, and she's like, oh, they said God, I could go in now.
Yeah, that's the only thing I was kind of like, okay, like I kind of wish there was a little bit more of a setup where I know they had the Simpsons dome kind of situation where other characters couldn't come in, and I was like, okay, cool, I guess that's a way to fix that kind of plot hole. But how did she know where they were going, and how did she know that Billy Batson died? And I'm kind of like, well, what? Okay, cool. I mean, that's fine. It's always a pleasure to see Wonder Woman. So yeah, I just wish there was a little bit more on that. But yeah, that's kind of my general consensus of the film.
Can I take a moment to take one of our patented films and stuff tangents here?
Oh yeah.
But I think somebody at DC, at Warner Brothers, needs to get fired from their marketing department.
I think they already have, probably. Yeah, they're going to be. Yeah.
So this Wonder Woman cameo, let's walk through it, right? So we saw that the first time we see Wonder Woman was in that dream sequence, and then all of a sudden is the wizard's head. I thought was a brilliant fake out, right? I thought that was wonderful. It's a dream sequence. I thought it was funny. And then we see her come in, as you rightly said, the literal Deus Ex Machina at the end of the third act. But all of this was, the surprise of that reveal was thrown away because Warner Brothers released that as a TV spot like 3 days before the movie came out.
Yep.
See, this is why I try to avoid trailers and TV spots and everything as much as I can, because I had no idea. That caught me off guard.
I'm 100% with you, Derick, but here's the problem, is that in today's day and age, it's no longer limited to TV spots. I was surfing the web and a side banner with one of those automatic videos showed up, and she was in it.
That's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah,
right?
That sucks.
And you're
that
just like,
is so frustrating.
Wait a minute, did I just notice did I just see Gal Gadot? Oh my God, she's my favorite. And then all of a sudden, Billy Batson, what the heck is going on? And then fade to black, Shazam 2 in theaters this Friday. It totally ruined the whole thing.
That sucks.
I think it's very much the marketing. And I'm hoping that it'll be changed because it is very much a DC marketing kind of thing where they essentially like, oh, you guys like this. This is the thing that like they don't trust in their own product kind of thing. And so they're like, oh, well, you guys like Wonder Woman. Let's make sure. And she's in this. So let's make sure that you know this, even though she's in literally like 3 minutes of the whole movie kind of thing. And not to even that, she's in 3 minutes of the movie and they made a pop of her for this movie. And it's like, why? Like, cause I thought, like I had seen the pop beforehand and I'm like, oh, is she going to be like key part and stuff like that? And no, she comes in 3 minutes at the end of the movie kind of thing.
Just awful.
Well, that's what I think that's one of the big differences between DC and Marvel, is that like when Far From Home comes out or No Way Home comes out, Andrew Garfield is literally lying about being in the movie for like a year almost. And it's just like they're doing everything they can to like keep this a secret. And then with DC, it's like our Flash movies come out. Michael Keaton, check him out. Ben Affleck, check him out. It's like, I get it. You have to like make sure that people will see the movie, but you got to protect the integrity of the product at the same time.
If you want to talk about the integrity of the product, I mean, let's go there. Did Warner Brothers fund this movie, or did the Wrigley's Chewing Gum Company sponsor this movie? Because that was quite possibly the worst case of product placement I've ever seen in any movie. And that includes Nintendo's Power Glove and the Wizard, by the way.
That's going back
where was it at?
far to bring the Skittles.
The Skittles.
Oh, the Skittles. That's
Taste
right.
the
Yeah.
rainbow. Let me
Taste
slow
Taste
it
the
down
rainbow.
in slow motion.
I had a laugh with that though. Like, yeah, I liked it.
I actually thought, so countering Alan and Ethan, I actually thought the movie was quite serviceable in terms of acts 1 and 2. I knew it wasn't ever going to blow me away. And of course, that's not Shazam's role in the DCEU has never been to blow you away. He's not Superman. He's not Batman. He's not Wonder Woman. I get that. So I thought that was fine, but I think it started getting almost too meta. A Skittles advertisement in the middle of this movie. They're talking about the Fast and Furious movies to
All about family.
Yeah, I'm like, she's in those.
She's in those movies.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Meta.
so that
What
always
else?
breaks my brain. I'm like, so when he watches those movies, is he like, wait, do I know her? Is she the god? Like,
That kind of thing would kind of work in a Deadpool movie, or maybe to a limited extent to the She-Hulk TV series, where they're breaking the wall on purpose. But in this movie, they're not really going there either. So I didn't understand. Like, it just got too meta for me.
I get what you mean. I truly get what you mean about that. I think the reason why they went that far is I think it's because they're kids, so they're going to make silly references.
Yeah.
And again, I still feel like this is geared towards more of like a family outing rather than like when you go see, Batman v Superman, Wonder Woman 84, whatever. But I will say, yeah, I felt like they were trying to be clever with the foreshadowing. They kind of did a little foreshadowing with the little electric ball that exploded in Billy Batson's room. And then that ended up being the way that, he saves the day.
Right.
And I think it's just like, what would kids think kind of thing? Like, well, what would a kid think? So that's my only real counter is I feel like they were trying to just be like, hey, kids can be clever too, and they can be funny. And yeah.
No, you're right. Look, you're right. Let's put it this way. I understand that, as viewers, there are probably, in terms of demographics, there's probably a couple different hats you can wear. But at the same time, I'm also not a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old or a 12-year-old kid, as much as I act like it at times. I'm certainly not, right? And so when you're sitting there and you're watching these movies, which exist in an interconnected universe that is otherwise also very serious. I mean, that's what I liked about the first Shazam movie, was the dichotomy of being in the same universe as this super dark metropolis, as this super dark and gothic Gotham City. You have this breath of fresh air, full of color character in Shazam, who is childish. I thought that was kind of cute and that worked. But then, you have the second movie, it somehow just didn't land, because it didn't work in the basis of, does this character exist with Batfleck or with Henry Cavill Superman? I don't see it.
I think you're very harsh on this film.
Oh
Pete.
yeah, probably.
And I think it's probably not unjustified. If my sense is that I agree with Alan, firstly, which is this was a very enjoyable, easygoing film. Like it goes back to kind of like entertainment, and entertainment should be entertaining, and you should walk out of the film with like a good feeling that it was an enjoyable thing to spend time watching. And I really liked it. I like Steve the Pen. I like the little jokes. I like the energy that everybody brought. I thought that was good. Putting all that aside, I think it's a typical DC nightmare of things that don't really make sense, shooting themselves in the foot, some really weird casting decisions, notably three sisters that for more than one reason, are absolutely not looking or acting like sisters. The end credit scene, there's a lot of typical DC, kind of screw ups in here. But that said, I compare this to Ant-Man, or the most recent Ant-Man, Quantumanium, because that's what came out most recent to this. And I thought Ant-Man was a very unenjoyable film. There was not a single joke that really made me crack a smile. The plot was almost inexplicable if you try to talk to like a layperson about what was going on. And compared to that, I thought that Shazam was really lighthearted and happy and simplistic, maybe overly so. But all the other criticisms that we're probably going to discuss for the rest of this episode are really true. That DC just can't help itself by doing one step forward, two step back, and just making these little mistakes that are really frustrating to fans that want to see kind of a coherent plot and characters and, like a universe that kind of makes some sense. And here, one of the things Pete even pointed out is, I'm not sure what universe we're in when we talk about all the different things that we've seen or not seen now, because at the end, or the end credit scene, we saw now Peacemaker, right? So where are we? That's, I guess, those are kind of the criticisms that I think DC fans or Marvel fans are going to raise against this film.
Yeah, we're on the cusp of like essentially universe rebirth, which very much so, like the Flash and what will probably accumulate in the Flashpoint. And James Gunn even said that the Flashpoint is kind of like the linchpin of that's going to like be the excuse to transform it into his universe going forward. So from that, he's going to be taking elements that work that are currently, existing and taking it to his universe and then changing things that don't work and leave them behind, and like essentially they'll be erased. So like, and they've already said like kind of publicly that if Shazam does good, that he'll be able to stay. And I think the end credit with the Amanda Waller's agents at the end was very much so playing into what James Gunn is going to be doing, but then also and leaving a door open for Shazam if things work out. But then very much so he could always just like close that door because like, oh well, that history kind of like got erased and we don't need it anymore kind of thing. Or also keep it in his Elseworld category, right. and kind of it being going back to like Marvel, just kind of like a variant universe that has similarities to the main universe, but there's differences kind of thing. So I think James Gunn, by putting that in, is very much kind of like leaving all options like open into like the future for Shazam and that franchise. I think that we won't get a cohesive timeline or storyline like across movies until after The Flash, essentially.
I mean, I get it. You want to hedge your bets, that's fine. I think the problem is that it causes significant confusion for the fans, at least for the next 6 months.
And I'm definitely going to think people like, I think what you guys were talking about, like the mom test too, where it's just like, if like my mom is going to be very confused by like she doesn't even know the difference between DC and Marvel. Right. So like now that there's going to be like different Elseworlds in Marvel, she's going to be like, wait, why is there, because there's going to be like 3 different Batmen. There's going to be like, or like even more than that. She's going to be like, isn't the Twilight guy Batman now? Why is Keaton back? Like, what is this guy doing? And so I think, the general movie-going audience is going to be a little bit out to sea.
Yeah, that's why you watch things with your mom, or watch things while your mom is working in the same room, so she could overhear it. Keep pointing, everybody.
My mom lives pretty far away, so
yeah.
I think that's the fear I have right now, is that when you're trying to build a shared universe, and this is not a commentary on how DC has not succeeded and how Marvel has, or vice versa. It's not. But the point is that if you're trying to make a shared universe, you kind of have to make things justifiable, right? Because I think now, based on the Flash trailer, we're getting Supergirl instead of Superman.
in just that universe. It's not the core universe, probably.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. That's absolutely fine. But then Supergirl also has a dedicated movie coming out in Gods and Monsters Chapter 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be the same Supergirl? We don't know.
I don't think so.
I also don't think so. But the problem is that my feeling or my suspicion is that if the Flash movie makes a boatload of money, which I expect that it will, because it's going to have a lot of Batman in it, it's going to have 2 Flashes in it, it's going to have Supergirl in it. I fear what they're going to do is someone at David Zaslav's office is going to call up James Gunn, and whether he wants to or not, they're going to force them to make that Flash a part of the Elseworld series. And if that's the case, then we're theoretically going to have an Elseworlds Batman with Pattinson, an Elseworlds Supergirl, a bunch of Elseworlds characters.
Elseworlds Joker?
Right,
Oh,
Elseworlds
man.
Joker,
Yeah.
exactly. Then we've got, so in fact, 2 Elseworlds Jokers, right? Because you've got Barry Keoghan in Pattinson's Batman, and you've got Joaquin Phoenix in his own Joker movie. So you've already got 2 there, right?
Yeah.
This doesn't pass Ethan's patented mom test, which is
it is patented. Yeah.
in the sense that we're fans. The 5 of us are fans. We go in there. We understand what's happening. We know a little bit inside baseball on the movies. But for your average viewer who just likes Batman and couldn't care less about the comics, or just likes Superman, how are they going to get around the fact that, I don't understand why there's so many different Supermen or why there's so many different Batmen? Is this a shared universe? Is this not? Look, it becomes a creative nightmare, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I think since its start, the DCU, I think they just kind of went about it the wrong way from the beginning. That's why I'm very surprised that James Gunn isn't pulling like we're just wiping it all out kind of thing. Like we're just starting fresh, because it's
because those movies are successful, so he's got to make sequels. It's money,
baby. Yeah. I mean, or just cataloging like that's all Elseworld. This is the new continuity, because he's leaving it open to current, we'll say, Snyderverse characters might still continue on. It's very much the Snyderverse and then now the James Gunverse. You want a clean slate it, like cut it off, at the knee, and then just recast everybody, start your own thing. You'll have those Elseworld things, but they'll be they're solo things. They don't intersect with each other, because that is how comics are. And that's kind of what Marvel has done with the What If series or X-Men 97 or certain other things that they're just their own thing. We're not even mentioning them in this other, in our timeline. If we do want to include them, then we'll include them. I am hopeful with that James Gunn is not focusing on a team movie, which very much I think that was a downfall of DC EU from the beginning, is it was clearly we're setting up for a team movie kind of thing, instead of just kind of building on the characters individually and then getting to that team movie. It was very much that team movie's coming from the beginning, so you're looking forward to that teen movie and not really paying attention or giving much weight to the individual stories and stuff. So yeah, it's DC has a lot of work to do.
Alan, let me ask, because you're the comics reader here, how do you see this? And again, I know we're moving away from Shazam for a moment, but I think this is equally important. How much do you see this DC envisioning of the universe, at least in the movie universe? Is this at all similar to what they did in the comics with the New 52?
A little bit, yes. So it's kind of weird. It does fit with Flashpoint. It's essentially what they're adapting, except for some strange reason they're using Supergirl instead of Superman. But I think that's a whole other can of worms. But I'm hoping history repeats itself, and maybe this is like a new 52 kind of version of the cinematic universe where they do take their time, they reintroduce characters, they change up some stories, and they make them. I feel like James Gunn really gets a good idea of how the comics work and how to adapt them. Because I mean, everything he's done so far, like Peacemaker, the Suicide Squad, they've all been really fun bangers, and he's been doing the best he can with what has been before him. And just like the comics, that there was even an instant where in the beginning of the New 52, someone thought it'd be hilarious to have the Joker rip his face off. And they were like, that's going to be a payoff somehow. And then unfortunately, that guy left the creative team, and another guy had to come in. Scott Snyder had to come in and fix it. So I'm hoping James Gunn is kind of like the Scott Snyder of the, of the movie world, to be like, okay, I'm going to come in and try and fix whatever was dealt with beforehand. So I think it could potentially work. I think the difficulty is going to be the Elseworld stuff. I hope they just slap it on in the beginning of the movie, like they have their own little DC logo. Elseworlds, I really don't think it's going to pass the mom test anytime soon. I think it's still going to be very, very difficult to explain to your mom why there's 2 Jokers over here, 3 Batmen over there. So James Gunn has a lot of work to do. But like I said, I hope history repeats itself. The New 52 was a massive success when it happened, and I hope the cinematic universe follows suit.
I don't recall like another time in any other like media where we've had like multiple people playing the same character simultaneously. Like even if we haven't seen this issue in like MCU, right? We've had the 3 Spider-Man or Spider-Men, right? But 2 are making kind of like repeat cameos, and there's really no risk that those 2 are going to come back and try to, reprise their roles. Whereas this is creating all sorts of contractual nightmare stuff when there's going to be 3 people potentially playing the same character simultaneously. I mean, it just seems like it's going to lead to like, especially with all the egos in Hollywood, this seems like a nightmare to try to control as well, right?
Yeah, no, this is, I feel like you said, the Spider-Man movie, like when you had all 3 Spider-Men, was very contained. I guess there technically is another animated movie, but people are able to, even moms, I feel like, are able to compartmentalize. Like moms are like, that's a cartoon and this is live action. They get that it's different. Right. But even when because I did actually see No Way Home with my mom, and even she was like a little bit like, why was Toby there? Like, she didn't really get that. And that was just like on its own. So if she goes out and there's like a Brave and the Bold, the Brave and the Bold Batman movie they want to do, and there's the Batman Part 2, and there's Joker Lady Gaga edition.
Just don't show her those. Just don't show her those. They don't need them.
And I'm not going to show her. She's just going to see commercials and be confused. She's going to be like, and then she loves Keaton. Keaton's her guy, so she's going to see Keaton. Are they going to make a Keaton thing? Like, people are trying to get Batfleck to come back, which he won't. But I think there's just, like you said, there's just so much that it is going to be really confusing for anyone who doesn't really have their finger on the pulse to figure out what is connected, what counts as like in the main story, and what counts as like an Elseworld or something. That's something that I think Marvel has been really good about. Sony, I think, is maybe diluting that a little bit, since Sony has their quote unquote spum universe where they're just like, just throw the Vulture in the end of Morbius and we'll figure it out later. Like they're diluting the waters a little bit, I think, because like Marvel's can't really control what the garbage that Sony puts out. But
but to Marvel's credit in that regard, and to actually maybe more to Sony's discredit, I think most people understand that Sony and Marvel are different, and at this point that the Sony movies have also been all relatively bad in the Spider-Man verse, right? Like Morbius was awful. Supposedly Kraven the Hunter's coming out this year, and I haven't heard or seen anything about it.
And Madam Spider.
Sony hit a home run with Across the Spider-Verse or Into the Spider-Verse. I hope to see more of that, and I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm less worried about people mixing that up. I think so. Marvel's also been very clear about, like, this is a Marvel production, that's a Sony production. If they mess up Morbius, that's on them. That's not our issue.
Yeah, and I mean, like, going back to what Alan was saying, like, in those movies, like, they open up with in association
Oh,
with
right.
Marvel
Right.
Yeah.
kind of thing.
That
So
always makes me laugh so much.
so if they
It's
so if they have like a title card or
Yeah.
an intro card or whatever like that, then at least they'll have that distinction. Yeah, I mean, and then just from that, just having a 5-minute or not even a 5-minute conversation, like just it's just different. This is just a different story. Because I'm trying to find a way for Derek, for your mom to understand things. I was gonna go with like the Star Trek.
She won't. Like I love my mom, but I tried to explain even Far From Home or No Way Home to her, and she was just like, okay. And then my dad was even worse. The dad test. That's the real test.
I think
Yeah.
I think they're outliers though, because I don't have that problem.
No.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I think we're the outliers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I think we're the I mean,
Okay.
moms and dads, I agree, are hopeless, right?
No.
And that's not who DC and Marvel wants. I think they want people like, I've got 3 siblings and they're like normal movie watchers, right? Like they don't go on a podcast and break everything down the day after they're normal people, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the audience that they need, right? We're always going to see any crap that they put out and we'll love it, we'll hate it, we'll talk about it for an hour, but it's my 3 siblings who are normal people who should be going to see these movies. And I think they're the people that, DC and particularly DC are kind of failing, because I think they're going to be super confused and they don't have time in their everyday life to sit down on Wikipedia or DC Wiki or whatever it is to kind of like read through and understand why there's more than one Batman, why there's a Supergirl and a Superman, and try to like weed through all of that. I think that's where the confusion is going to come in. We'll figure it out and we'll have a great time doing it. The more confusion, the better for us, right? But I think it's the normal people who are going to be like totally befuddled by what is going on and what is this new movie, and should I see it? Is it a sequel or not a sequel?
Yeah,
Absolutely. I agree absolutely with that. And I think DC, I love them to death, but as much as they're trying, I think they're like hoping that people like us are with those people. Like my girlfriend, she's a perfect example. She's an average moviegoer. She loves watching everything and anything, but she at this point now realizes that us being together, she's like, I have my own pocket encyclopedia next to me. So if I don't know what's going on, she'll just look at me and be like, why is there 3 Batmans? And I'm like, all right,
like
babe.
the translator.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, babe, sit down. Okay, get a beer or something. We're gonna talk about this. And then she's like, oh fuck, okay. Oh, excuse me. Oh damn. But
the moment you need to pull out a whiteboard and dry erase markers, you've kind of lost the ball game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think this is, I think Ethan raised this point, my ham-fisted segue back to Shazam. But, like in Shazam, there were a couple of lines where we, as comic book aficionados, or at least superhero movie aficionados, know that Shazam is also known as Captain Marvel, most famously, and that Captain Marvel is also Brie Larson's character in the MCU. I think your average person isn't going to know that. And I think that when they made that comment, because, his whole shtick in the movie, or not shtick, but his whole running plot thread in the movie was, what do I even call myself? What is my name? One of the public calls him Captain Marvel. And then in the post-credit scene where he very funnily points out, the Authority, which we know is coming up in the new reboot. And then he's like, why can't it be the Avengers Society? Right, where he's now, that's the second overtly Marvel connection or comparison that you're making. I think when we both saw this movie, Ethan and I spoke immediately after. And
it's cringy.
His point was, and this is a really valid point, the moment you have to refer to your competition, you've already lost the game.
In a way that isn't universal, kind of thing. That was another thing that I got to, there was only one breakdown that I got to see before this, but even them, they were like very like, so they're not acknowledging that that Marvel exists. And which I don't know if it shows like they're not confident enough, because in Marvel, in the MCU, they've started to like, oh yeah, Superman, Kryptonite.
In the Eternals, yeah.
Yeah, in the Eternals, but also in other things, like they mention DC as like, yeah, like DC exists kind of in our universe kind of thing. And it's very much so, is that like is showing a confidence, like, yeah, we could just mention them. They exist. So what? Kind of thing. Yeah, and whereas DC with this one is very overtly making it like they don't know, that like MCU Marvel doesn't exist. Also, it like me and Alan, like, cause it was very overtly like with the guy saying Captain Marvel that, and I was like, was there a TV show? I think there might be in a TV show, and yeah, Alan confirmed it after we watched it, is that that old man played Billy Batson in like one of those old comic live action TV shows.
Oh, that's funny.
And stuff.
Okay.
And he's dressed like that. Cool. Yeah, he's dressed in like the red shirt with the yellow shirt underneath and stuff.
That's funny.
So that was actually Captain Marvel. So he got to say Captain Marvel.
As a fan, I would have appreciated that, but that's a real deep cut even for me, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm aware of that TV show, but not to the extent where, I like that wasn't a reference that I made until you pointed that out to me.
And I will say, I love when movies do Easter eggs like that, where it's just something like, if you're a fan, you'll catch it and you'll be like, oh, that's the guy from the thing, or like a reference, like when they say, like, I think that reference really works because you're like, oh, okay, like if you don't get it, like I didn't get that, you don't even notice it. It doesn't take you out of the movie. But I think the Captain Marvel reference, to your credit, is one that would maybe, if you get the reference, like we all obviously did, you're like, cool. But if you don't get the reference, you might be like, why are they mentioning Brie Larson?
Yeah.
Like it might take you out of the movie a little bit. So I do think that Easter egg, and I'm very glad that they did actually mention the original character's name. I think that was a really good move to do. But yeah, if you made it even more overt, then people would get really confused, I think.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, that's the only way that they could get that into this movie kind of thing, is like mentioning it like that.
But we're also forgetting the really cool Easter egg that was right in the beginning of the film. As a horror fan, I was like, holy shit, that was way cooler too. Was the Annabelle little Easter egg right in the beginning in the pediatrician's office. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, the director is the director of Annabelle creation.
Really?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like I don't know if it's like a running thing between like just Annabelle's creators or like like directors and stuff. But there's always, in any of the directors, I don't think it's just him, but I think also James Wan, because he produces Annabelle. He's put Annabelle's in his movie.
Wasn't Mary in Annabelle?
Maybe. Probably.
I have not seen it, so I couldn't tell you.
Well, I just know him as his Instagram Twitter tag, Pony Smasher, is the director. But like it's in the
David F. Sandberg.
It's also David F. Sandberg. There you go. It's in the first one somewhere too. The first Shazam. Yeah. But speaking of him, he cameos in this too. Like I was like, oh, that's him. With it's like the guy that gets like picked up by, I think, like the Minotaur, and then later on he's like driving a scooter and like comes to the
as he's trying to escape the city.
When the like barrier is like moving through and stuff like that, he's like driving a scooter trying to get away. That's him.
Well, guys, I kind of wanted to, because we've been talking a lot about the things around the movie. I just wanted to kind of talk about what I thought about the film itself, because
outside the dome of the film, outside of the dome, we got to go inside the dome. I'm
going back into Philadelphia. Which, by the way, that's one thing that was like, I know like there's reasons for it, and it happened the first one too. But it was like, I was like, DC movies is like Metropolis, Gotham City. This one's in Philly. Like I thought that was just kind of kind of a little. I'm probably in the middle of everybody on the podcast, where I thought the movie was fine. It was fun. It was honestly a little bit long for me. It's like 2 hours and 10 minutes or something like that. And I think that if this was like a 90-minute just family adventure movie, because it really is a family movie. Like it's got a lot of great stuff, like we were saying, for kids. And if you just cut out, trim the fat a lot. Like you make a lot of like because Alan, you said the third act worked for you. that was the act that didn't really work for me. It felt the most like generic superhero, like we've got to go and do the thing and sacrifice yourself that you've seen like 1,000 times before. Mm-hmm. What really worked for me is the kind of family dynamic stuff that was especially happening in the second act. The stuff that really worked for me the most was all of the Freddy stuff. I would have just liked to have seen a movie about Freddy. Like, I was like, can we just get a spin-off for him? I don't care if it's an Elseworlds movie or what. And part of that is because I'm a really big Adam Brody fan, and I have been since I grew up on the OC, you know, in my like teen years. I was like a really big fan of that show. But even he's not in it that much. It's mostly Jack Dylan Grazer who plays the young version of him, and he is phenomenal. And him running around, there's two dynamics that he had that I thought made the movie for me. The first one is him and Jaimin Hansu, where they have this like bickering like energy between them, where they're like running around, and he's just kind of just like, he's like, all right, Jimmy, or like he's calling the wrong name and stuff like that, and he's like
Jeff.
Jeff, thank you. Yeah, and he's just like so kind of just sarcastic and quippy in a way that doesn't feel forced. Like there's some other lines that feel a little bit cringy and forced, but he always feels so natural and hilarious, and he really does feel like a young Adam Brody. Like, it really works for me. And then I thought that he had insane chemistry with Rachel Ziegler, who she is a phenomenon. Like, you know, obviously she's getting cast in a lot of she's going to be Snow White. She's going to be in the new Hunger Games movie. So I am like, she's kind of like, you know, this is only, I think, her second major film after she was in
West Side Story.
Guys and Dolls. Oh, thank you, West Side Story. But yeah, like, they had such good chemistry. It was a little weird that she was like, I was like, the age gap is a little bit gross. He's a minor. Come on, you're 6,000 years old. But like, it's still they're dynamic. Like anytime we would cut back to them, I was like, cool. Like, I'm down for just like watching them chat on a rooftop. And then when she had like Inception superpowers where she was like rewriting the world, I was all about that. Like I said, I could have watched a movie just devoted straight up to them. Don't cut any of that out. Maybe cut out some of the like long extended action sequences and stuff like that, because they were good, but they could have been a little shorter. That was probably my main complaint with the movie, is that it did feel pretty overlong. I think there was a very, very good tight 90-minute, even maybe 100-minute film in here. It did not need to be as stretched as it was. And I did like the way also we talked about all the references to stuff. It peppers things in. It does a good job of like being like, okay, if you haven't seen any other DC films, even if you haven't seen the first Shazam film, you can kind of go right into this. There's going to be stuff for people who have seen those films, then they will be greatly rewarded. But if you haven't, you're like, okay, cool. I know who Wonder Woman is as a concept. I haven't seen any of the Wonder Woman films. He's got a crush on her. Oh, cool. She showed up at the end. Obviously, we said they spoiled that. That's a bummer. But that's the right way you do one of these quote unquote smaller character kind of movies where they're tied into this large universe. And they also had a good reason for, like, they put it under a dome. So it's like, well, that's always the thing in like the DC and Marvel stuff. Like, why isn't Superman and Batman and like everybody showing up? It's like, oh, because they literally, the whole city is cut off. So they actually did give a good reason for them being separate. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of even talking myself into liking it more now than I did when I watched it. But yeah, this was, like Alan said, this was a good, fun film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm the last one to say I did really enjoy the movie. I love Zachary Levi, you know, since Chuck and stuff. So I liked the dynamic. I did like the final act. I think that was a very powerful move for Billy to kind of like do this, you know, sacrifice, and to kind of learn this whole, like, he wasn't confident in himself. Like, he felt like he couldn't let go of his family and stuff like that, which is kind of like what you hear in that therapy session at the beginning. And so to have that and him kind of like do this fight solo and stuff. And then also I one of my favorite Billy Batson Shazam moments in pop culture is from is whenever he uses the Shazam bolt as like a final finishing move. So when he used that at the end, I was like, yeah, like awesome, because that's one of my favorite mechanics for Billy, and to how when he uses like the Shazam bolt as his own kind of like like this is the killer move and stuff. So so yeah, it kind of like showed in a way of like the whole movie going full circle, and him getting to that point. I do wish that they kind of provided more not context, but like time to like kind of discuss that emotional part that he was dealing with, which I kind of think that in the first one they did a lot more on focusing on like what he's emotionally going through, which was like trying to find his mom and like thinking that his mom just lost him, and he was trying to get back to her, and having that notion, and yeah, so I did enjoy it overall, and I liked the action of it. I liked Rachel Ziegler's like powers too. Yeah, it was just like an insanity, and that whole moment where she loses her powers for that second, I was like, oh shoot, like it came and hit her anyway kind of thing. So yeah, overall, like I do hope that Zachary Levi and Shazam and the Shazam family like continue on, because they are like I really do enjoy their dynamic. I feel like they lend more to James Gunn's style of writing anyway, and like his jokes and stuff like that. Like I said, like very much so, like when when Wonder Woman shows up, like it very much felt like that moment in Guardians, you know, where Peter Quill like had sent a message and they got it, and then like the linchpin kind of came in, had a little bit more weight on that one. But yeah, I think that James Gunn could do a good amount of things with the Shazam family in the future. So really hoping that even if the movie doesn't do well, they kind of like find a place for them in some way.
If the movie doesn't do well, though, I feel like this is on DC. It is a superhero movie. I mean, it is a sequel. I mean, Shazam is kind of a recognizable brand. There's really nothing that it's going head to head with. I know it's a little bit of a dead month, but I mean, it's not really going head to head with anything. So if this movie doesn't do great, I feel like it's somehow on DC for not promoting it enough, because there's really no reason that this wouldn't be something that people would want to go see right now, considering there's really nothing else that it's competing with. And it's not like a new IP and no one knows. Like Black Adam was new. There wasn't like really any baseline understanding of who that character was, even though The Rock is a big name. Shazam is a sequel, right? So I mean, it should have been like a little bit more known, and it should have been like a little bit more anticipated. So if it doesn't do well, I feel like that's definitely on DC.
I agree with that absolutely, because it really is on DC's, because I've heard so many complaints about how they're not really advertising the film well. And I think it does have a little bit of competition with another favorite franchise of mine, Scream 6. And Scream 6 had an amazing marketing. Like it was awesome. I even went out and bought like the 25th anniversary mask and everything. I was super hyped. And it was a phenomenal film, like especially a sequel that was like way down the line. Scream 6 already, you know, horror movies are known for the, you know, their really latter sequels not being that great. So I feel like I would completely blame DC if somehow Scream 6 keeps making more money this weekend compared to Shazam. You know, but yeah.
Where did you guys all fall on Black Adam?
I didn't even watch it. Honestly, that was the, like, I see almost every superhero movie. And even when I was like, maybe I'll watch it when it comes on HBO Max. I still haven't watched it. I was like, I don't need to see this. I don't need to see this, man. I don't care. Like, I was just nothing about that movie. The only thing that I would have wanted to watch that movie was like Henry Cavill being in it for 3 seconds, which everybody got spoiled for them. Like, other than that, I don't care, man. Like, I don't need to watch The Rock's Vanity Project.
Yeah, I didn't watch it either.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm not gonna watch it because this week, you know, opening weekend. And then so after that, like by the time I heard it, it was like already kind of like, yeah, it's not that great. And I'm like, okay. And then just the more and more that came out of it is like, especially the whole like, oh yeah, he doesn't lose because The Rock has it in his contract that he can't lose a fight. And it's like, well, that just defeats the purpose of the character. He's a bad guy. He's supposed to lose, and stuff like that. And then the whole like them trying to make it he like more of an anti-hero, and it's like Black Adam is never an anti-hero. Like he is like essentially like the Ra's al Ghul. He's always bad. He's always like doing stuff,
Well,
when is he ever Ra's is okay, I guess, but Black Adam even more so.
I'm gonna put my nerd glass. Actually, he was actually a anti-hero and forever evil when he saved it. Yeah, but no, I get you.
What, Black Adam or Ra's?
Yeah, Black Adam. All the villains were actually the heroes. So
that's why I asked, because I think that this wasn't just a DC failure. I think that inherently Black Adam, I mean, he's most famously tied to Shazam, right? And in the sense that
absolutely.
He's a Shazam villain.
He's Shazam's main villain.
Lex Luthor.
He's the same power set theoretically, because he's the same powers.
Yeah, he's one of
from
the
same
Shazam
person. So I would argue that it wasn't just a DC problem, and I have famously been crapping on The Rock for the last 6 months because of Black Adam.
But he changed the balance of power in the DC universe forever.
Of course.
Yeah, no, he was doomed once James Gunn came on.
He took it so poorly that his vanity project, which by the way, well said, because that is exactly what it was. He took it so poorly that he kind of crapped on everyone but himself. It was on everybody else's fault, not his. And I would go so far as to say that if anyone did watch it, having seen Black Adam, I would have been less enthused about watching another movie in the same micro universe, right? I mean, we're in the DCEU, fine, but then more specifically, we're in the Shazam, let's say, company of Shazam, right? Because this guy's main guy is supposed to be Shazam.
Well, that's the thing too, is that he never mentioned fighting Shazam, like hardly. His only goal was like, I want to fight Superman, and it's like, dude, your main like adversary is Shazam. It's not Superman, kind of thing. Like you need to like be hyping up your Shazam family, kind of thing. I
agree, and I think it would have been a far more effective cameo if it was Zachary Levi at the end of the movie instead of Henry Cavill.
Exactly.
I think that would have been great, especially because if he was inspecting Superman and then all of a sudden the mist cleared and you just see the red suit and you see his suit, I think that would have been much better.
Yeah. No, kind of like inside baseball, but like, yeah, I went to at Comic-Con. They're always the first panel of Saturday. Like, The Rock does this whole spectacle. He's like, seems like he's floating. There's lightning, all this shit stuff. Very like, okay, kind of thing. But yeah, it would have been awesome to see. And I think like Zachary Levi is like, yeah, it would be awesome to fight The Rock. But like The Rock never came out to like kind of like how like poke fun and stuff like that at Zachary Levi during that and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, he like treated like, nah, I'm doing my own thing already, kind of thing. It's just very much.
Of course, he's the most electrifying man in sports entertainment. So I mean,
yeah, literally, he was literally electrified. Like, yeah, like there was like all this stuff, and it was like, woo, kind of thing. Like
Shazam
that.
is just a jabroni, right?
So, yeah, exactly.
No,
exactly.
He doesn't know what The Rock's cooking whatsoever. So,
yeah.
All it took to bring The Rock back to ground level was James Gunn smacking him down very publicly. I thought, but kudos to The Rock. He admitted it. And, I don't know if you guys caught his comments at the Oscars.
Yeah.
What did he say? I didn't catch it. What did he say?
So he was asked about the whole debacle of what's going on. And he likened it to saying, we've got a winning quarterback and a winning head coach, but a new owner's come in and he wants to put in his own coach and own players.
Mm-hmm.
But my dude, you're not winning.
I know.
Yeah.
Look, that's
it's like
contrite as we're ever going to get from The Rock.
Yeah.
Like, he was never a winning quarterback. And
Yeah.
by and far,
At least
the
for
previous
this,
head coach was a loser as well. So,
Yeah.
I think he took the People's Champ a little too close to heart.
Yeah, The Rock was like Gardner Minshew or something.
Yeah.
so
But he was doomed from the start once James Gunn, because literally with James Gunn, you bring two of his people that he is gone against in the WWE, one of which like publicly hates him, like with Dave Bautista.
Oh, John Cena.
No, John. Yeah, he brings John Cena, who I think had respect for him, but then lost it again. But then Dave Bautista has hated him from the start, and they've even said like, "Yeah, we hate each other," kind of thing. And Dave Bautista has become James Gunn's guy, like to a T. Like he will die for James Gunn, kind of thing. So yeah, I knew like once James Gunn came in, I was like, The Rock's gone. Like James Gunn brings like his posse that does not like The Rock, kind of thing. Yeah,
that's what I love about John Cena, and that I can't stand about The Rock is The Rock has to look so cool all the time. He has to win every fight. He has to look amazing. And John Cena will make himself look like an idiot. He will lose. He'll get killed. He'll get stabbed. He'll die. He'll
like walk around in his undies.
yeah.
He'll make an ass of himself. But because it's for the service of the product, where he is not. He's so humble, and it's the same thing with Batista too. So like I did not like John Cena when I was, I didn't know that much about wrestling. I'd see him a little bit, and then like the more I found out about him, the more I would see him do stuff like this. I was like, he's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and The Rock he's got to be the guy,
Mm-hmm. Even his, oh my gosh, I just saw like an old promo from WWE of his early days, and it's just like, you're such an asshole kind of thing, even from a kayfabe kind of point. It's just like, yeah, you're such an asshole.
People's Champ? No way.
Yeah.
That's a really good thing, though, Derick, that you said that. I kind of knew that, but you really verbalized it, which is Cena comes in, and like you said, he's not embarrassed to, or like he's not too proud to embarrass himself, and be in scenes where he's kind of the made to be the fool. Whereas you're right, The Rock always has to be really the hero, and he has to come out on top, and he can never be, demasculated or be made to look like a little bit foolish and silly. And that's really kind of like an approach to acting, right? Whether you're really willing to kind of like subject yourself to the role, or whether you're going to say, look, the role has to be written for me so that I'm always kind of the coolest guy in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that was okay when The Rock was like really 25, 30 and like, at his peak. But I mean, he's starting to get to the age now that he's not going to get those roles anymore, right? I mean, he's already, ripped for a guy of that age, but I mean, you can't keep that up forever, So Cena, I think, has done a really interesting transition to be someone who's, willing to take the role of peacemaker, which puts him in like the most humiliating, embarrassing, like weird situations. And he really embraces that. And you're right. I mean, that's something really endearing about him as a character.
It also goes to the fact that the role is probably not the right one. If that's your mindset, that's not the right role.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be
Black Adam's not the right role.
It worked wonders for him in G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe never loses to Cobra. They always win. And he was that big, muscled army guy that comes out on top. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It does not work when you choose to be the villain in a comic book movie.
Mm-hmm.
And not even a villain that's known for being nuanced. Say what you will, Thanos was relatively nuanced. Loki, relatively nuanced. More even, I can't believe I didn't even mention this. In Black Panther, you had Killmonger. Extremely nuanced. Like you sided with them and you understood where they were coming from. As Black Adam, like there was no or very little redeeming about the villain.
I mean, that movie was just so bad from start to finish that maybe the character could have been written a totally different way. But that movie, I was just like so confused. I was kind of like looking around me, behind me in the cinema, like, is anyone else getting this? Because like, who are all these people that are coming out from like Pierce Brosnan's in this movie? What's going on?
Which
Like,
that too. Like I
was just
recently heard, because
confused.
like I said, I haven't watched it myself, but like that I've heard like Pierce Brosnan was the best part. He did a really good job with Dr.
He
Fate,
was.
and then they kill him. It's like, what?
Spoilers! I didn't see it.
Okay,
retroactive spoiler alert.
Sorry.
I will say there's
You're worse than DC's marketing, Ariel.
Well, it was DC's marketing that got me.
What is the statute of limitations on spoilers, by the way?
That's true. I already said I didn't want to see it. Pierce Brosnan, I love him.
Yeah.
He would be my only reason for watching it.
He really is the only reason. I watched it because like I like the Black Adam character, but yeah, he The Rock, like you guys said, it was a vanity project, but yeah, him as Dr. Fate was the highlight of the film.
Yeah.
Like, he was the best part. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I still stand by that. If he really wanted to be a DC guy, he would have probably been a great Jon Stewart in the Green Lantern. I think that would have been far more.
The Rock?
Well, compared to Black Adam, yeah. I think that would have been far more aligned with his vision. Or maybe Kilowog? What,
Kilowog.
Kilowog.
But that wouldn't be his face, and he's the face.
Yeah, it would have been
Touché.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He could have been so many other characters, but he's just like, oh, Black Adam.
Yeah. Anyway, so Shazam.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I think that's a testament to Shazam too. And maybe this is my personal bias, but I feel way better talking about other things than Shazam in the DC universe. But is there anything we've missed? What did we think of Lucy Liu? Did everyone?
That's
like
what
her?
I was gonna say. That's what we missed is Lucy Liu, who I'm a huge fan of hers.
Love her.
So I thought she was great. I thought she was just kind of like chewing the scenery and being evil and just like flying her wood dragon. She knows she's playing this like ridiculous evil villain character who's just over the top. And I thought she was having fun with it. I haven't seen her in too much stuff recently, so I was just really happy to see her.
Yeah, I did enjoy her, but like I think kind of going back to the point of like, I wish there was more like foundation to like going that dynamic and stuff, and her like you get the sense of like she's maybe the middle child, essentially. She is the middle child, literally. So you get that sense of like middle child syndrome, like they're not listened to and like they have their own ideas that they want to share and stuff like that. So you get the turn for her isn't too surprising, but I think like maybe have gotten a little bit more of the emotional reasoning to her, like and specifically like changing, like wanting to make the world punish and stuff like that, and all that. I think that was the only thing lacking from her character, but overall, like I think that her and Rachel Ziegler's characters, I think out of the three sisters were the most kind of like developed. I think Helen Mirren's like it wasn't as developed as it should have been. She was just more so kind of like that, like going back to another brother sister dynamic. Like she was very much the Kevin Jonas of the Jonas Brothers. Like just kind of like they're kind of somewhat doesn't have the most like dialogue and stuff like that.
But that's also the curse of screen time.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that.
Yeah.
I know.
It's the third Hemsworth brother that nobody cares about.
Yeah, very much so.
I think one of my favorite aspects of the film, though, is that I think I hear this a lot, that a lot of people say is that they complain that the villains kind of get a little too much screen time. And because nowadays, a lot of comic book movies, we get the first movie, it's an origin, it focuses on the hero, and then a little bit on the villain. Or the villain gets introduced and they kind of steal the show, which is pretty common. And I won't lie, what I really appreciated about this film is that there was a great bookend. I don't know if you guys kind of thought about it, because in the beginning, in the first Shazam, Billy's alone. And his whole arc is that he was thrown away, he's on his own. He can't find a family for himself. And it starts with him alone. And then at the end, he gets his family. And now this one, it starts with him with his family, and now his fear is being alone.
Yeah,
now he's like, I don't want to lose my family, and I really love that aspect of it, because then throughout the film, you start seeing him grow more and more and going, it's okay. Like, I'm not going to lose my family. I can do this alone because I have the support of my family. And I think that was one of my favorite parts of the whole film.
Mine too.
And at the end of it, and then I guess the juxtapose with the three sisters is how they just, if you notice, each one is trying to kind of do something on their own. Like Helen Mirren shows up first to fight Shazam. Obviously, she did have Lucy Liu in her back pocket. And then, Anne, is that Rachel
Ziegler? Yeah.
Ziegler? Okay. She's kind of doing her own thing as well. And it's showing how, like, each sister, they keep kind of trying to do their own thing. No one's kind of agreeing on what they want to do. It shows how they're going to fail. And I think that was one of my favorite aspects of it. It was just a perfect bookend. So, like, if we don't get anything in the future, I loved these two arcs that focused on Billy Bats and Shazam.
And then I really appreciated the whole thing with his struggles with imposter syndrome. That's something that, like, you see crop up a little bit in movies, but they really hit on it here. And it's something that, I've occasionally struggled with, and it kind of did hit home a little bit where it's just like, are you really like success, or is it just, and he's such a perfectly done character, like a perfectly chosen character to be struggling with that, because he's literally a kid who turns into this big superhero, and he's like, oh, which, like, in this dichotomy that he has to deal with. I really appreciated that arc.
It's a good point.
Yeah. One thing that me and Alan, and I had pointed out to Alan afterwards, was like, the kid that plays, young Billy Batson, he was hardly in the movie. And I was like, I was like, they should have had him a bit more and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I'm all for Zachary Levi, but there was like a perfect balance in the first one of him like being in his Billy Batson form and in his Shazam form. But in this movie, like, he was literally just Shazam for the most part. I don't know if that might play into more so of like that kind of like imposter syndrome maybe, or like holding on to what he wants to be than what he actually is. I think that it was poignant that, like, when the mom was like, I want to see the real you kind of thing, that it might have played it into that kind of moment. But yeah, I was just like, you could show him a bit more kind of thing. Like,
so do we have ratings for this?
That's a great point. So normally we have a very simple rating system. Is this a movie that you need to rush out and go to see in the cinema? Is this a movie that you should wait for streaming onto HBO Max? Or is this a movie that you should avoid at all costs?
Mm-hmm. I think for the fact of, like, I want him back, rush out and watch it. It's a very enjoyable movie. I did love it. I did like it a lot. Yeah, it's a very easy, like, for me, digestible kind of movie to watch. I don't know if that's just coming from me, like, knowing comics and stuff like that, but yeah, just for the kind of like fun dynamics, just go in with just wanting to experience family, from something different than the Fast and Furious movies, but with elements of Fast and Furious.
Alan, how do you feel? Same?
Yeah, I mean, I love DC, so I gotta support them. I hope they do well. I also, too, for Zachary Levi's sake, I think I heard him say that he's like, I'll be Shazam if it does well, and I'm like, I like him a lot. I think he's a great Shazam. I wanted Alan Richardson to play the part way back when, but now Levi has cemented as a great Shazam Captain Marvel. So yeah, rush to the theaters, please.
Derick?
I'm probably you can stream it. Like I said, it's probably a little too long, and it might be a little bit more digestible if you just, it's something I'm like, yeah, I should watch it definitely, but I don't think you need to run out. I used to like Zachary Levi a lot. He's maybe said some things recently that have been a little bit not great, but support Adam Brody for sure. So yeah, it's worth a watch, but probably just a stream for me.
Where do you stand, Ethan?
You know how I stand. I think you should absolutely watch this movie in the cinemas. I think this is exactly what the cinematic experience is meant for. It's a fun movie. You'll laugh a little bit. It's got some action. It's a good popcorn movie. It's not going to change your life, but it's absolutely enjoyable, and you'll walk out of there thinking that it was, good time spent. I know, Pete, you've got, and we've all raised, there's a lot of plot holes. It's kind of the same DC story, and we wish they wouldn't kind of keep tripping over their own feet. But just in terms of like a one-off, 2-hour story, I think it hits the target, and it's really enjoyable to watch. So go see it in the cinema.
All right. Well, guys, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I think I'm going to be everyone's Black Adams, because for me, this
You're the
is
anti-hero.
a skip. I caveat all my reviews by saying that I'll probably change over time. Yeah. It may mature, but it's rare to go from a skip to a must watch, or from a must watch to a skip. I will say that I understand that DC is in a precarious situation, or at least Shazam, Aquaman, and The Flash are in more precarious situations. This is the third to last movie in Zack Snyder's vision of what the DC universe should have been. That's fine. I think, however, that the plot holes and the flaws, the most egregious use of product placement I've seen in a long time, would make me say that this is probably a skip.
You didn't like the end credit sequence either.
I think that really pushed me off, because that was, as Ariel rightly said, it was them hedging their bets. It was them saying that if this money makes movie, we'll throw it into an Elseworlds universe, and we can justify that, and we can leave the door open. I don't like that. Look, when you're spending $150 million, or I think $125 million, you either go all in or you don't. This will they, won't they kind of stuff works for TV. It doesn't work for movies.
I'm confused by that end credit sequence, because they said, why do we have to park so far away? And they said, well, we don't want to like tip him off that we're coming. And he's never been this like antisocial guy that like doesn't want to see people. And then he's like just standing by himself in like these 1950s like gas station. Like I was just confused why he was there and why they had to sneak up to find him. I didn't think that made sense. Maybe there's a reason, someone can explain it to me, but I thought that was just bizarre the way that they set it up.
Yeah, I don't know if they were like just kind of like it seemed like they like had invited him, because he's like, oh, I'm here to meet somebody. It felt like, but yeah, the whole parking away.
And we didn't even talk about, the centipede, what's
Savannah.
I kind of loved that. Because it was kind of like, they had the very similar post-credit sequence in the second one that obviously led to nothing. And it felt like that was almost like a parody of post-credit sequences that lead to nothing. You have the one from like the first Spider-Man where like they're all in jail and it's just like Scorpion is there, and then Michael Keaton knows who he is. Like, ooh, how's this going to play to the next Spider? And then it just nothing happens. Yeah. There's so many of those that it was, and then obviously Shazam had one. They're like, oh, and he's just like, wait, don't leave, and he just like leaves. It's like, okay, this like it didn't go anywhere, and we're acknowledging that, and we're gonna like do it again as a joke. Fair
enough. But if you're gonna make it, and I'm not saying that that's not funny. I just think that, for example, I think it was the second Spider-Man, the second, or maybe the Homecoming, where you see Captain America sit down and say, so you waited this whole time and it didn't pay off, right? Where he does the tough guy thing.
Yeah, that was the first one. Mm-hmm.
I think that would have been more funny. And I think that, again, given the sense of humor that Shazam has shown and the childish behavior, I think they could have done something better. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not going to judge the whole movie based on its end credit sequence, or at least its second end credit sequence. So
I will say, spoilers. I'm going to throw it out there. Scream 6 does a great fucking job great job of making fun of the whole post credits thing, because they talk, the whole theme of the film is like every Scream has like a theme of like horror films, like we're in a sequel now, or we're in a trilogy now, it's a franchise. And they kind of tease that up throughout the movie, and then at the end you wait for the post credits, and there is one, and it's just a character going, not every movie needs a post credits, and then ends. Brilliant. I was cracking up so hard.
So there you have it.
Derick, where can our listeners find you guys on The Underrated?
Yeah, so we're on all of the podcast apps. So however you are listening to this, you can listen to Underrated. Look up Underrated or look up Undercast Company, and then Underrated will come up, as well as we do a couple of other shows that would all come up there on all of the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. Patreon, we also, if you look up our Patreon, Undercast Company, on all that stuff to find us. And like, as you guys were saying, our podcast is Underrated. We talk about underrated or underappreciated movies. It comes out every other Monday. So you guys are actually going to be on an episode coming up soon. Really excited that we're going to be talking about The Game. So
I can't wait.
Yeah, I am stoked for that.
Super excited for it.
Ariel, where can people find you?
Yeah, alongside them at the Underrated podcast, I also have a podcast called You've Never Seen ? Where I discuss a movie with someone who has never seen the movie, or vice versa. They'll introduce it to me, but it's a movie that's part of pop culture cinematic history, and it's kind of like like I've never seen it, or my guest has never seen it, and we discuss it after the first viewing.
Awesome. And Alan, when you're not writing and setting up DC storylines, where can people find you?
Just with these guys too. I don't have my own show yet, but you know what? I just like hanging out and talking about movies. So anytime Undercast Company's somewhere, I'm gonna try and be there.
Awesome.
You guys are always welcome on Films and Stuff. We really enjoy having you guys. Derick, this is your second time, and we always have a good amount of tangents, but we get down to business when we need to also.
Yes.
Thanks so much, guys, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us. I had an absolute blast.
Looking forward to more of these in the future.
Indeed.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks everyone. And thanks everyone for listening to us. We'll see you next time on Films and Stuff. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.